Hey everyone, welcome back to Melody's 15-year journey with ocular melanoma. Today we are going to talk about some misconceptions with ocular melanoma, how rare it is, and what advocacy in those early days looked like for Melody. Welcome back. Hey Melody.
Hey,
All right, so let's jump into it. First, let's start with misconceptions. What kind of misconceptions did you find in the beginning?
well, the biggest misconception is that a diagnosis of ocular melanoma does not mean you're going to die right away. That's the biggest misconception. People think, oh my God, I'm diagnosed, I'm going to die. And that's not true. The other misconceptions are that you're going to lose your eyesight. Not everybody loses their eyesight. Some people do just fine and they don't have any problems at all. They still see the same as they've seen their whole life. The other misconceptions is that you don't have any choices. You do. You can discuss with your physician choices that might work for you. Right now, it's a lot different landscape than when I was diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, we had this is your treatment, this is what you get. Now there's clinical trials if you qualify. There's other treatment options besides the plaque brachytherapy that can be explored. So I think those are the kind of the misconceptions that most people have.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen a lot of progress in the last 15 years, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, 15 years, it's been amazing. When I was diagnosed, it was all bad news, and it was this is what you do, and go home, and you'll be lucky if you make it out of this alive. We're really sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even say they're sorry. Sometimes they just are, oh well.
Yes. I think when you Google it, everyone says don't Google it. That's part of the reason is because a lot of outdated information comes up in Google.
A lot of outdated information, and there's also, I think, way back in the day, that people that were diagnosed 10 years beyond back, they really did not have good statistics. This cancer is so rare, there's not really great information out there. So you have researchers getting almost information in a silo, maybe. So there wasn't a way that you could look at a whole community across the United States or the world. They were looking at patients in their centers or some neighboring centers, some people that they worked with. So it wasn't like it is now where information is easily accessible and we can talk easily. I mean, you figure back in 2010, 11, I don't even think we had cameras on our cell phones then. Something is telling me we don't, because I don't have any selfies of me from back then. I think I still had a camera.
So we did have cameras on our cell phones, but they were garbage and no one used them because I
Okay.
remember, yes, I remember in like 2001-ish
Uh,
thinking, why in the world is this camera on my phone? It does absolutely nothing. Like you're just taking up phone space. Like this is the dumbest thing ever. Little did I know it would soon become an integral part of our
that's right.
society. But I
Right.
remember thinking it was quite stupid.
Well, I was looking back for photos, and there's not one photo of me. And I'm not a big selfie person anyway, but I have taken them, and I've also taken group pictures. But all of the pictures that I have are from a digital camera, not from a phone.
Mhm.
So, so I mean, when you really think back 15 years ago, there's a lot of things that have changed since then. Information is just was not out there. Google, we had Google, but Google only knew what it could search for, and it was searching for a lot of journals that a lot of people were publishing that were bad news, and a lot of the ophthalmologists even gave you bad news. They just didn't have really good success stories to follow up on. So when you would Google, you would get, oh, bad news. I remember looking at a website for Ocular Melanoma Foundation. That was the go-to then, and it said 50% of the people with ocular melanoma are going to die, and that was like, oh my God, I'm one of those 50%. I'm going to die. And it puts a heavy burden. We talked about that a couple episodes ago about the burden of that. And um, but that's a big misconception, because look at me. They told me, oh, I went from having 3 to 6 months to live, 2 to 5 years to live, and here I am 15 years later. So that's the biggest misconception I'm going to say, is that they don't always know.
Definitely. Can you think of any other ones?
Other than a loss of sight, not everybody is going to lose their sight. So the treatments are not as difficult as a lot of people think they are. The treatments are easy to get through. I've had numerous medical procedures and surgeries, and that one was probably the easiest one.
Which one? The plaque?
The plaque radiation,
Yeah.
by
Okay.
far. Yeah, it's a little annoying. It's a little bit of a nuisance, but it's kind of a, it lingers, but it's kind of done and over, and then you're off. It's not like having a big major surgery that you have to recover from.
Okay. Perfect. Let's talk about how rare it is.
It's very rare. It's considered a rare cancer. The government has made it a rare cancer, so it does qualify for special funding for special research projects and for a fast track for pharmaceutical approval. We're up to 3,000 a year is kind of the estimate they're giving now, but that doesn't mean that the incidents are increasing. It just means population's increasing. So it is very rare. In the rare space of 3,000 people a year, you get into parts of that population that are even more rare. This can happen to anybody. That is also a misconception. I guess we should have covered that before. It is a misconception that it only happens to Caucasians, and it only happens to people with blue eyes. That's a big misconception, and I should have put that over there. Sorry about that.
That's what we talk about it now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what color hair you have. It doesn't matter what color eyes you have. It doesn't matter where you're from. People of all ethnicities can get ocular melanoma. They are just more rare. Children can get it. They're just more rare. So there's a lot of rare in the community. So there's I'm not rare in the community. I'm normal. I'm, light skinned, light eyed, light haired. I'm probably the majority. But there's people with brown eyes, green eyes, dark skin. There's, dark hair. In the rare community of ocular melanoma, there are other people that are more rare. Conjunctival is very rare. When you look at 3,000 people a year in the United States, that's not very many. 7,000 in a world. So our whole world, 7,000 people in 1 year. That's not very many compared to most other illnesses or cancers.
Yeah. So one of the things that I hear a lot of people complain about is the lack of funding. How does the funding play into it? Because you said that you get special rare funding. How does that all work together?
Well, it used to work differently than it works today. The NIH, the government used to give funding to different government entities, and the government entities would then fund research for melanoma and rare melanomas. The government has cut back on funding, so now we're looking at it's going to be even harder to get funding for research. There are private grants through patients. They give money for research. We also have families that will give larger grants, but mostly now we're looking towards the community for funding for research because the government is pulling back a lot of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate because it's not just ocular melanoma. There's a lot of rare diseases that need help with funding because when you have a rare population, the patients can't afford to push the research along. When you're dealing with your own illness and your own financial issues at home, to be able to have to then to support the research side of it, not everybody has that ability to do that.
Yeah. So since it's February and it's Rare Disease Month, do you want to talk a little bit about what Hill Day is in regards to this?
Sure. So Hill Day is important because we're going to go to legislatures and say, we need you to help us with research funding because it's been pulled back and now these rare diseases, the rare community is going to suffer. So by reaching out to your legislature, both at home and in DC, and ask them to fund research to bring the funding back is extremely important because that's where most of the funding was coming from. And losing the government funding portion of it really is putting a detriment to advancing our possibility for a cure. There's so much that works into getting a cure to the market that we can go over that another time, but there's just so much that goes into that. It's very expensive. We did a couple of sessions at the I Believe survivorship meetings where we had the pharmaceutical companies talk about how much money it takes to get a drug from research to market, and it's millions and millions of dollars. And there's millions of dollars going into research right now that isn't even getting the drug to market. It's just trying to figure out what the mechanisms are, because it's such a rare cancer. It hasn't really been studied in up until I don't know, probably the 2000s is, I think, maybe when things really started moving along. And it just keeps moving at a faster rate now, but it all takes funding. And we need the government to help us with that funding. So by reaching out to your state, local, and federal legislatures, and asking them to fund it, tell your story, explain to them why this is so important, and that so they can see you as a person, not just as a dollar sign on a balance sheet.
Right. And so we have put out when we're going to be there. If people want to come with us, you're more than welcome to join us. And you still go to see your own representative. So we kind of all meet together. You find out where you're going, you go to their office, and you talk to, it's usually not the representative, it's usually their staffers, which is actually better because you're talking to the health staff or someone who's dealing more with things that they're going to understand what you're talking about, and then they report back and they have their ear. So it's great. But if someone's virtual, they can send letters in, and they can also visit the representatives in their own state because they have an office in their own state. What else does the virtual entail if somebody was going to do virtual?
They would call, email, fax, however, a letter to them, make a phone call, and you can schedule an appointment to talk to the local staff in your city. We talk about Hill Day and federal government, but don't forget you have state and local government as well. That is good, because a lot of the local government pushes the state government, which then pushes the federal government. So don't forget, don't just use one little piece. But being active at home is important. So it doesn't take a lot to do it virtually. You're basically just going to send an email, make a phone call, write a letter, send a letter that we're going to provide to you. That you can add your name to it, and then you can send it on. So we will provide that letter for you. And then follow up with them. Just keep following up to, let them know that you're here and you're active and you would like to help move this forward.
Yeah, and it was a really cool experience to be in DC. And our staffer, one of them, I thought it was very cool because she said, "Oh, I have a rare disease myself. Like, I understand, and I'm already fighting for this." And so it was very cool because, and that's what I mean by they're actually the person you want to talk to, not necessarily the representative, because she got to hear everyone else's stories, which just made her argument stronger that she was already going to take to him. We just fueled her. And
Right.
one of the ladies with us, her rare disease was the same one the staffer had, which was
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
remember what it was because I had never heard of it, but
Uh-huh.
it was very cool.
Well, the one thing that's really great about being in DC with our group is that we do it with Every Life Foundation. So you're going to go with a group of people that have all kinds of rare diseases, but you kind of develop this little friendship. Then you kind of keep in touch, and you see everybody year after year, and the staffers start to recognize you. Like I was amazed when I went in last year. Tom Tillis, who was our senator, they recognized me and called me by my name. And I'm like, how did you know that? Because I don't know that they know who's coming, but I was like, wow, it was very impressive to me that they care. You think they don't care, but they do. And they recognize you. And there was a lot of us that were repeat people that they recognized us. They're like, hey, glad you're back. And so you develop a rapport by going in person or by visiting the local office staff. You can develop a rapport. And then it's not like you're just bugging them, because you're not. They really are excited to have you there. And I think that's one of the things we all need to move away from, is the preconceived notion that we're going to bother somebody, because they want to hear from you. They really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're so welcoming. We went into, so I'm in Virginia. So we went into our representative's office, and they had packages of Virginia peanuts and payday bars because peanuts are big out here, and like all these little treats. And it was welcoming. And they were like, "Do you want a water bottle?" And yeah, it's a very cool experience.
They do want you there. But the biggest thing with having a rare disease, is not accepting your fate. Because look at all the diseases that have been cured. And there's a lot of diseases still yet to be cured. And I know ocular melanoma will be cured one day because I've watched it grow and I've watched all these great things. When I was diagnosed, we didn't have any treatments. There were some trials and that was it. Now we've got 2 approved treatments that are FDA approved. That's huge. So, if we all band together and push that engine forward through representation, through advocacy, through funding research, we'll get there. But we can't accept the fact that, oh, it's rare, and oh, this is what I have, and oh, I'm just going to accept my lot in life, and this is what I have, I'm just going to be done.
Yeah.
Because if we all did that, we would never get where we are today.
Right. And something else to be encouraged by, the speed that technology moves is constantly doubling. So, it took that long to get to where we are, but where are we going to be in only 5 more years, and in 10 and in 20? Like it's going to move a lot faster as we go, which is very exciting.
The faster that computers work, the faster we're going to move forward. And computers, they just keep being faster, faster, faster. So, and one of the things too about Hill Day and advocating is you don't have to be a patient to do that. You can be a family member, because sometimes the patient can't be the person who advocates for themselves. Sometimes the family member needs to do that. It doesn't have to be a caretaker. It can be anybody, but it could be a friend, somebody who's passionate about it. I do understand that, especially if you're newly diagnosed, it's really hard to be passionate about anything. I know that when I was newly diagnosed, I didn't know how to be an advocate for myself. I didn't even know how to ask my doctor a question. I did not know how to ask my doctor, will my eye deflate and fall out?
Right.
So you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So you're newly diagnosed people, sometimes our emotions and our mental health part of it, of the diagnosis, isn't where we need to be able to do it for ourselves at that moment, but you'll get there. So if you aren't at that spot right now where you feel that you can do it, that you have what it takes to do it, but you have a friend or a family member who is willing to do it for you, please let them, please ask them to, please encourage them to. Because it doesn't have to be a patient voice. Because this is a disease that doesn't just affect one person. It affects an entire family and extended family and, friends. It radiates out.
Absolutely. So, my next question was going to be, you've obviously become a very big advocate. You do a lot with advocacy, but what did it look like in those early days, which you kind of just answered, but do you want to elaborate on that anymore?
Yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I was raised in an era where you went to the doctor and you did what the doctor said and you did not question. You just did what they said. You took the medicine they said. You were a good patient. And my mom used to say, you mind your P's and Q's. And you just did what they did. That's not always a good thing. I'm not saying you should go challenge and be rude, but I think our doctors don't always know what to say to us because we're not asking the questions, so they think we understand. But if we don't understand and we're not telling them we don't understand, or if we're not telling them we need more help or we need more information, how are they going to know if we don't tell them? So I learned that I was doing myself a very big disservice by not using my voice. I had to learn how to do that because I really was not raised like that. I was raised to be very quiet, don't rock the boat, don't say anything, swallow your emotions, swallow your fears, soldier on. I'm at the tail end of the boomer. I was born in '62, so I'm on the tail end of that boomer mentality. And it's a tough mentality because it was, you have to be strong. You have to have that. And I also had a mother who was very much a woman's liber. And, it was strong. Show your strength. Don't cry. And so when you're first diagnosed, it's really hard because you have all that stuff in your head. It's not just the cartoon that you saw. It's the voices in your head that just keep talking to you. So the first couple of times when you speak up and say, but what about? It's hard. I remember I had bad double vision after I had my plaque out. It was really bad and it went on for a while and they wanted to do Avastin shots in my eye to try to help stop some of the retinopathy that was causing the double vision. And I did not know how to ask any questions about the shot. And the doctor gave me a shot, sent me on my way, and I went and got in the car, and my eye was burning, and I was really having a hard time. I was only able to drive a block before I had to pull over and go sit for half an hour while everything kind of calmed down because I couldn't see to drive. And the doctor never said, do you have somebody with you? Or are you okay to go? They just whoop, out the door. But I also never said, hey, I don't know that I'm okay to go right now. I'm having a hard time. And I think that was kind of the turning point for me, was how do you know if something, when to speak up, but you should always speak up if you feel that something isn't right. I went to a different doctor. I was between California and North Carolina. So the doctor that did the Avastin shot was in California. I went back to my doctor in North Carolina that did my plaque, and he said, why are you doing Avastin shots? It's not going to make any difference. You're going to lose your vision anyway. And I'm like, what? Oh, it was shocking to me. And I left that office that day feeling like this is just not right. How do I have such two different stories, one hopeful, one hopeless? I need to figure this out for myself. And that was the time when I really decided that I needed to be an advocate, and I was 2 years into my diagnosis. So don't feel like if you have to advocate right away, but please try to find your voice as early as possible. If something does not feel right, you need to ask, you need to speak up. If you don't understand something, it's okay to say to your doctor, I don't understand. I need you to explain this to me. You have those rights. Those are a patient bill of rights. Sometimes advocacy is just asking a question, and sometimes it's out there flying the flag and trying to get everybody to get on board and get more attention behind it. And then there's all these little spots in the middle for advocacy. So when you advocate for yourself, it starts small, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. So in the early days, I did not know how, but I learned, and now I'm very vocal.
Let's also talk about second opinions, because I feel like that goes right in hand with this. If someone's thinking, ooh, will it offend my doctor? Am I cheating on my doctor? Like, what would you say to that?
If you have a voice in your head that says second opinion, go get a second opinion. Doesn't matter what your doctor says. If your doctor has an ego issue and will fire you because you got a second opinion, then you're obviously not with the right doctor. Because most of our ocular oncologists will encourage a second opinion. But remember, opinions are opinions. And so if you go see somebody about plaque and you go see somebody about proton beam, they're both going to advocate for what they do. So you have to try to go through the weeds and figure out what's best for you. Because proton beam might not be, plaque might not be, but you need to feel good with your treatment options. If a doctor says, you need Avastin shots every 3 months or every 6 weeks or every 2 weeks, and you don't feel comfortable with that, talk to your doctor first. Say, to your doctor, say, these are my fears. If you still feel you need a second opinion, go get a second opinion. Because you're always going to wonder, I wonder what would have happened if I had gotten a second opinion. So it's better just to squash it, to go get a second opinion. More than likely they will agree. Sometimes they don't, and if they don't, then you sort out with your gut on how you feel. But if you ever have a doubt in your head that you need a second opinion, go and get one. Because otherwise it'll just gnaw at you, and you'll be mad at yourself for not doing that.
Yeah, and like in your situation, you had two doctors giving you completely different prognosis and treatment. So it's worth exploring.
And here's the funny thing is I did not keep going with the doctor with the Avastin shots. I went with the doctor that treated me that says you're going to lose your vision anyway. So why are you doing this? It's uncomfortable and it's not going to get you anywhere. And he was correct. It did not get me anywhere. And I used my logical mind at that moment. I did not use my fear. I didn't use my imagination mind. It's like, well, for me, common sense and my rational mind said, if I'm going to lose my vision, I'd rather lose it now than have it linger. The lingering, the going in every 4 to 6 weeks to get a shot. Shots in your eyes are not always bad, but they were horrible for me. For me, it did not work, and I did not want that. And I did not like having something stuck in my eye. And so there was a lot of, the fear did enter into a little bit of my decision, but I thought, Why am I prolonging something that's going to happen? I'd rather just have it resolved and be done with it. And that's why I chose not to have Avastin shots, and I just lost my vision, and I was okay with it because it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you feel like you regained a little control in that moment?
I did feel like I had control. I feel like I made the decision, I had control, and I knew what was ahead of me. I knew, okay, vision's going to go anyway because he told me when he put the plaque on that I was going to lose my vision because it covered the macula. So it was going to happen. The issue I was having from the double vision was twofold. One of it was because I had my muscles cut right and they weren't quite put back together right. But the other one was that there was some swelling and some fluid from the radiation retinopathy in my eye that was causing kind of aggravating it. But I just wore an eye patch when I had double vision, and eventually my vision did go. And I learned early on how to live with it because the lingering was difficult. Trying to figure out how to see around something, or trying to constantly have to go in to get your prisms fixed because your double vision just kept getting wonky. And even with a prism for the double vision, I still wore an eye patch,
Yeah.
especially when I was driving.
Mm-hmm. Are there any things that you found helpful after your plaque? Like, what would you recommend if someone's getting ready to have that? Like, did you like a hot compress or a cold compress? Or was there anything like after you got it out and you went back into the world, was there anything that really helped you kind of feel better?
Yeah. Cold for me was soothing. I used a bag of frozen peas, which is why we developed a little cool pack that is in the new patient packets we send out. You can put it in the freezer, you can put it in the refrigerator, you can put it in the microwave, whatever works. Because some people warm is soothing and some people cold is soothing, but for me cold. So I would put a bag of peas on my eye, and that was very helpful. I didn't do well in bright light, so sunglasses are helpful for some. Sunglasses don't work for me because I have a problem seeing in the dark. And when I put sunglasses on, I feel like I'm in the dark and I feel like I can't see and I get anxious. And so I would just go around with an eye patch on, or I would just close my eye. So I walked around a lot like Popeye. I had one eye open and one eye closed. And it worked for me. But if I was going to go in anywhere where there was a bright light, I would close my eye ahead of time. And then once I got kind of more used to the bright light with my good eye, then I would slowly open my bad eye. And that was kind of something that worked for me for light. The biggest thing was giving my eye rest because your eye has gone through a lot. Your eye is going to just close automatically sometimes and you can't open it. It's tired, it's done, it'll just close. And when it does, just let it close. Resting your eyes. Don't do a lot of computer work in the beginning because computer work is really eye straining. Reading can be eye straining. So when you're doing something like that, maybe put a patch on, close your eye, and give that eye rest. That was kind of the biggest thing for me, was to remember to rest your eye. And if it is bothering you, cool or warm. Don't use hot. I've been told you shouldn't use hot, and you also shouldn't really use freezing. But just cool and warm is sometimes soothing. But a frozen bag of peas, even though it's frozen, it wasn't like I was sticking an ice cube on my eye. It was kind of something I could move around, and it was very soothing for me.
They thaw fast.
They do thaw fast.
They do. And I also like peas for other body parts as well because they're moldable.
Yes, they are. Well, in those little boo boo buddies, that's what our ice pack looks like. Our little cool pack in our new patient pack. It's like a boo boo buddy,
Mm-hmm.
and those work real well too because they kind of fit the eye and they don't have something over your whole head.
Yeah.
I tried ice cubes in a towel, that didn't work, but so peas worked really well, or a boo boo buddy cool pack was helpful. Other than rest, you have to remember that you just went through a real traumatic thing. You have to have a lot of rest.
And that's hard for people nowadays.
It is hard. Don't jump in. You know, this is something that I see a lot, and this is part of the advocating for yourself. It's kind of a twofold. Take the time off work. If your work will give you 6 weeks for a surgery, take 6 weeks. Just because you can go back to work in 2 doesn't mean you should. And that's one of the things that I have adopted very early on. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. Because I can push my body a lot, but it doesn't mean I should. So give your eye time. Give your body time. You've gone through 2 surgeries. You've gone through 2 anesthesia processes. You've got radiation in your eye. Your body is trying to heal Let it heal. Give yourself time. Even if you feel fine, give yourself time. Give your eye time. Don't jump right into spreadsheets and computer work and, oh, I got to do all this stuff. Take whatever leave your employer will give you and that you can afford.
And also, don't discount the emotional toll because that affects your physical as well.
It does.
That's a big trauma.
Yeah. And you need that time. You need time just to be calm, be still, rest, and recover. It's like if you have a broken leg, you're not going to go out and run a marathon. You know, you have to have a cast, and it has to heal, and they take the cast off, and then you have to be very careful how you walk. And sometimes you're in a walking cast for a while. I mean, it's like there's baby steps. But unfortunately, they don't really teach you baby steps with ocular melanoma. Okay, your plaque's off, like me. What did I do? As soon as my plaque was off, I went out to lunch because I wanted to be normal. Not saying that that's the right thing to do, but I still did give myself time. I did not go to back to work for 2 months because I couldn't. I was not physically capable of it. Mentally, I probably wasn't even capable of it. My eye was still causing too many problems. I couldn't drive right away. There's all these things, and so being calm and giving yourself time to heal is advocating for yourself. So do that.
I agree. I think that's super important. All right, everyone, we are going to end it here, but we will see you for episode 5. So stay tuned, and we hope you have a wonderful week.